story is fascinating and inspiring. She was born without 3D vision, and then in her 40s, she figured out a way to fix that. So here to tell her own incredible story, welcome the author of Fixing My Gaze, Dr. Susan Berry. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the vision you were born with, first of all. Describe what that was like.
Well, it wasn't as if I didn't know the world was in 3 dimensions. I only saw with one eye at a time because I was cross-eyed. So that meant I would look with one eye and turn in the other eye. And I would actually switch. So sometimes I'd be looking at you with my right eye and the left eye was turned in, and sometimes I'd be looking at you with my left eye and my right eye would turn in. And I would switch quite often. And the world, I knew it was in 3D. I moved through a 3-dimensional world. I knew, for example, that you are sitting in front of the back of the sofa because you're blocking the view of the sofa.
Oh, right.
But the pockets
Not the whole view of the sofa, though.
But part of the view.
Okay.
No, not at all. Just the right amount of the view of the sofa is being blocked. Just the right amount. But I didn't see the pockets of space between objects. So space was much more compressed. Of course, I didn't know this.
Right.
Because I had no other way of seeing, no other experience. But space was compressed and contracted. And I didn't see the pockets of space between things. As a result, I didn't like clutter. I was a real neatnik. I wanted everything in its place because everything seemed piled up upon each other.
Interesting. Now, you said that you didn't see in 3D because you were cross-eyed looking through one eye at a time. Does that mean, then, that people who have lost an eye or lose vision in an eye do not see in 3D?
That's correct. They do not have what's called stereopsis or stereo vision.
And you were known as Stereo Sue growing up.
I was known as Stereo Sue after Oliver Sacks, the famous neurologist and writer, wrote a story about me that appeared in the New Yorker magazine in June of 2006. And he titled his story Stereo Sue. It's his nickname for me. So I really like it.
So how did you retrain your brain then to see in 3D? How is that even possible?
Well, that's a very good question, because I had learned in school that if you don't gain stereo vision within a critical period in early childhood, that it was lost forever. That this skill, the ability of the brain to take the information from the 2 eyes and allow you to have a 3D view of the world, had to develop in early childhood, or you could never develop it. I went to see a developmental optometrist when I was 48 years old. And the reason I went to see her, her name is Teresa Ruggiero, and she's in Northampton, Massachusetts, near where I live. I went to see her because my view of the world was very jittery, because I kept switching between these 2 eyes. And although I had 3 surgeries as a child that made my eyes look straight, so I cosmetically looked okay, I still looked with one eye and turned in the other. It's just that the turn now was more subtle. So other people didn't notice. But because I kept switching between the 2 eyes, I had a very jittery world view. Because the right eye and the left eye were seeing a significantly different view of the world. So I went to see a developmental optometrist complaining about my jittery gaze. And she explained to me that I'd spent all my life looking with one eye and turning in the other, and that if we were to get rid of this jittery gaze, what she would teach me to do was to learn how to point the 2 eyes at the same place in space at the same time.
And how do you do that?
Oh, I used a whole bunch of different vision therapy procedures. And basically what they taught me is they gave me the feedback to know where each eye was pointing. And once I could figure out where each eye was pointing, I could then change where the 2 eyes were pointing.
And that's something that comes to people naturally as they grow up, right, with their vision. What about other sort of vision difficulties, I'll call them impairments? Can people retrain their brain to, correct other vision problems? Or is it just for what we're talking about here?
The kind of vision problem I had would be called a binocular vision problem, meaning the ability to coordinate the 2 eyes and integrate the information from the 2 eyes together to see, for example, in 3 dimensions. And the kind of vision therapy I had is really targeted toward that kind of vision change. Certainly you can retrain your brain in a whole bunch of other ways, but in particular, this is what I'm talking about, and it's what I talked about in my book, Fixing My Gaze. I describe the kind of techniques I use that my optometrist taught me.
It is fascinating because, as you said, if it's not developed at an early age, most people think it's lost. But you are here to proof that that's not true.
And we've got all the information, too, on our website. It's called Fixing My Gaze. Dr. Susan Berry, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.